Yes, I greet you saints all over social media. This is Minister Mervin Murake. I am here with Minister Lubabalo. We are doing a podcast and also a video for YouTubers. So it's been a while since we have had something going on, but I think this is the right time because we have this COVID-19 that is going on, the coronavirus. So we feel that we just need to give you a biblical perspective of what is happening, because this is major stuff that is happening in the world. You know, it's affecting everywhere. The world has been shut down for like months now. You know, when I look at South Africa, we are almost close to 60 days. You know, it's almost 2 months of lockdown. So I feel that we have to give you a biblical perspective. You are listening. You know, this podcast is really not about to give you news that is happening. No, you already know about the coronavirus. I assume everyone knows about it. But you know, if you are listening, you will be getting a biblical perspective of what we are talking about and what is happening in the world, to just open your eyes that we are in the last times. You know, we are in the end times. The organization that we have is called the Maranatha Evangelical Association, which really says, "Oh Lord, come." But it's an evangelical association that is heralding the second coming of the Lord. And we are heralding and talking about the coming of the Lord. We are talking about these last days and the signs of these last days, the prophecies of the end times. So I'm having here with me Minister Lubabalo. He's in Cape Town. I'm busy speaking from George. We welcome you to the program. We will just be talking shortly about this COVID-19. Yes, greetings, Saint. How are you, Minister Lubabalo?
I am fine, my brother. Thank you for hosting me again. A lot of people are looking for answers, especially Christians. What is happening? What does this mean? Where are we now? So I think this is a very important conversation. I'm happy to participate.
Okay, now that's good. I think let us just get right to it. You know, let us not take much of the time, and let's get right to it. Like, how did this all start? You know, I mean, how did this entire coronavirus start? Do you have some? There are people who are saying that, look, this has been planned, this has been going on, this has been in the loops, you know, but it just came out just at the right time. Do you have anything you can say to us about, you know, how it started?
At the moment, there is a dispute. The Secretary of State in United States, Mike Pompeo, is alleging that it started in Chinese labs. But I must say that he has not really provided solid evidence to back up those claims. The US intelligence agencies are also saying they have not really found evidence for that. All we know right now is that it started from China. A lot of people are saying started in the wet markets in China, so they are selling a lot of meat on the street and all of that. So a lot of people are saying that is where it originated. China is also disputing strongly that it started in their labs. So far, all we know is that it started in the province of Wuhan, China. That is what we are sure about in 2019, in late 2019. That is what we are sure about at the moment.
Wow. And it just went viral. You know, we talk about social media, how things go viral on social media. This one went viral. It went viral. It went all over the globe. It affected nations. You know, it's a virus that affected many people. You know, and really, you know, there are just to add on what you are saying. You know, there's what we call the 5I law enforcement group. I don't know if it's the group or not, but these are 5 nations. They released a report. They released a report that speaks to the same language that the Secretary of State of the United States, Mark Pompeo, is saying. The report is issued by nations like the US. They are part of the same group. It's the United States, it's Canada, it's Australia, it's Britain, and it's also New Zealand. It's also an intelligence agency in some sort. They've released a report that actually suggests that, look, this is what they believe to be the case. Because there's one thing that the Chinese are good with. They are good at disinformation. They are very good at that, and they are good at throwing different theories on the market so that people can get confused as to really what is the cause of this entire thing. But it seems like when I was listening to President Trump speaking at Fox News, he was asked specifically by the journalist there that, look, do you have evidence about the lab and all of that? He was adamant he was not going to talk about it, and you could tell that he's confident and that he's not going to specify what happened and whatnot, the sources, because eventually if you're talking about intelligence, you need to have sources, you need to have people that can. So they seem to be confident that, look, it happened there. But now Trump, he seems to, because maybe not trying to avoid controversy, he often now says the source is China, irrespective of how it happened, whether it's happened in a lab or not. But we know that the source is China. And it's amazing, because there's been dispute about those things,
It's also important to note that China does not want to allow any experts to come into the country and investigate, because that would help to establish what is the truth, what happened.
Yes.
So China will not allow any experts. So we can only now we are having to rely on what they are saying, and as you are saying, we cannot trust China. China is a dictatorship. There is no free media in China. Also, another important thing that we should note: China. The first thing that they did was to deny and to spread misinformation. So they advised the World Health Organization that they should say that this disease is not transmitted human to human at first. And that is what the World Organization said, that we don't believe that this is human to human. So everyone was relaxing, not taking it very seriously. And at that time, China was blocking travel from Wuhan to other provinces in China. They were restricting all that travel, while they were allowing international travel from Wuhan and to Wuhan. So there were flights, so people could travel from Wuhan to South Africa, from Wuhan to United States, to United Kingdom, to Germany, but you could not travel from Wuhan to Germany.
But could they travel back? Let's say if you said, no, I want to go back to Wuhan, could you go back to Wuhan, or would they restrict you? Or is it just to say, look, we allow you to get out of the country, but we are not going to allow you to come back? So could they go back to Wuhan?
What I am sure about at the moment is that you could travel out of Wuhan. I am not very certain you could travel in. I doubt, but I'm not very certain. But I'm very sure that they allowed travel outside, flights to leave. So that is why they spread like wildfire. Yes, President Trump was very early in banning travel to China, to and from China. But by that time, remember, it started in 2019. China already knew back in 20. This is why we call it COVID-19. It started in 2019. So China already knew in late 2019. But the United States banned travel in early 2019. South Africa banned very late, I think February or March. So by that time, it was very late, to be honest. We will touch back on South Africa also, just a few talking points, but we will go into the biblical perspective of this, because we just need to give you, if you are the listener, we just need to give you a narrative of what is happening so that you understand the facts, because
one fact that is true is that it started in China. There's no dispute about it, right? And another crucial fact is that these people, they protected their people and left the world, in a situation whereby now we have so many countries now that are busy quenching the wildfires that come from China. So these are two important facts that is started in China. That's undisputed. And the second important fact is that they protected their people and allowed a virus to escape. I will use the word escape because when I use the word escape, I'm saying that they could control it. They could have controlled, but they allowed it to escape.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and it's because of this escape that the world is now facing these things and these problems that are happening now. Yeah. And another thing that and you'll find that in our talk we will talk about the USA and China because these are major world powers.
Yes. And
it's clear that it's from the look of things, these two powers, they have a huge role to play in Bible prophecy. There's a passage in the book of Revelation where it speaks about the kings of the East, and that is often looked as alluding to China. It's in the book of Revelation. I think it's in the book of Revelation chapter 16. I think it speaks about them in both ways. But the point is that maybe I can be wrong with the Bible reference, but it's in the book of Revelation. I'm sure about that. You can maybe, if you are a listener, you can Google it and just find it. Kings of the East. A book of Revelation, so that you just can get what we're talking about. But the whole point is to say that China, which is a world superpower, it's in Bible prophecy. Whether you dispute it or not, they are in Bible prophecy. Because the truth of the matter, everyone can see what's going on in the world. We are in the end times. Yes. And you know what? Another amazing thing, that happened was there was a trade deal with the USA and China because of the tariff trade war that was going on before the pandemic. And Donald Trump always complained. He said, these people have been ripping us off. The USA has been losing $100 billion to China. So that's why he had put so much emphasis on going into a trade war with China by increasing tariffs on the products they buy, especially from the farmers, because he was alluding to the fact that the farmers were really targeted by China. So the whole issue here, which is very striking, there are two key events that happened during that time. Three key events, if you remember. The first event I would talk about that has been going on during the time in, say, December to January was the Trump impeachment, number one. And number two, the assassination of the general of Iran, Soleimani.
Yes.
And the response of Iran to that, but there has been going to and fro between Iran and the USA during that time. And another issue that has been taking place, is the trade deal they had to sign in January to really deal with the issue of the tariffs.
Yeah.
Now, these are key issues that were happening during the time, and it's quite striking that someone mentioned that in the clause, in the clause that was put in place by the Chinese when they were having a deal with the USA, they mentioned that, look, if there is a virus, a pandemic, or any plague, whatever act of God, they don't have to obey the clauses of the deal. And it's quite striking that, and really after they signed the deal, and that's when they announced the plague, because I think it was in 20 January, then that they began to really talk to the world that, hey, look, this thing is actually bad. And you find that they put a clause in a contract that says that if there's something like this that happens, we don't have to. And by the way, this thing started, let's say, late November. They had entire month of December to really investigate the issue. And we need also to mention, it's a very important fact, that scientists and people were trying to speak out. They were being silenced, others were detained, they've been mistreated, I can even go as far as others were killed.
Yes, some are missing, never to be found, so that means they are dead.
So I'm saying, I don't know what you have to say about it, because these are, I think, very important issues we have to look at in terms of saying that, look, these are issues that took place, and isn't this really something that maybe China foresaw that, okay, it's possible that Iran and the US, they will go into because it's clear that Iran has a good relationship with China, and particularly because Iran has been supplying them with oil, a commodity that they need a lot, So even though there has been back and forth exchange between China and the US, particularly about these tanks moving from Iran to China, and
yes,
these things have been going on, and I believe that by that time there has been a sense that, look, these two nations, they will go into a sense of a conflict that will take place.
It was inevitable, because we have to understand that China intends to dominate the world. That is very clear. The Chinese Communist Party intends to be the dominating force in the world. But not necessarily through the military, even though their military is quite strong. Third strongest in the world after US and Russia. I don't know if they have not yet surpassed Russia, but they spend more than Russia. But where they dominate exactly is through the economy. You can see how they have taken over in Africa through loans, borrowing money to governments, and then governments governments have to sometimes give over strategic assets to China. Can also happen in South Africa. We have a lot of debt. ESCOM has taken lots of debts from China. The other time our president was calling them donations. You see how strategic China is, calling it a donation. But China intends to dominate the world through the economy. The coronavirus has actually given them that advantage. Whether it was created deliberately or not, China right now, their economy is operating in full capacity. Whereas many other industrialized economies, such as the United States, they are struggling. Many businesses are closed in the US, the factories are closed. So now think about it, who's gonna now fill that gap? China.
Yeah, true.
China.
True.
Yeah,
and
China will
massive supply. Yeah.
China will fill that gap. Also, another issue that we have to take into account, that China exports a lot of medical supplies. So China, now that there is a pandemic, it has actually became an important country to import from for many countries. Which is why I think that Europe seems to be afraid of investigating China. Because Australia has spoken out saying that, look, the countries should create a coalition to force China to allow experts in to investigate, and maybe actions may be taken if they find that China has deliberately created a virus. The United States, President Trump came up and said he supports Australia, but China is already taking moves against Australia. I think they already said they will no longer import wine from Australia, and it is important to note that Australia is a relatively small country. They cannot be able to fight China alone. So we would need strong European economies like Germany, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Spain, to come forward and also say, no, we support this. We should create an international coalition to force China. But European countries, like I'm saying, they don't seem to have the backbone. I think they think China is too powerful. They're installing 5G for us. They're installing railway tracks. Trains in Germany. The bullet trains are being installed by China now. So I think European countries are like, look, we don't care if they developed this thing or not. China is too powerful. There's nothing much we can do. So yes, I just want to say it is possible that this could be an economic war.
Yeah. And we all know that economic wars and trade wars, they eventually lead to actual wars. That's what happened in Second World War. It starts there because if you look at the Second World War, Germany was heavily affected by the the rules that were put in place in the First World War. They were really heavily sanctioned on many things, and the economy was crippled. We talk about the Great Depression and all of that. It's clear that Germany was tired of being bullied. They eventually began to. They had a strong leader that they wanted. Hitler came into the party and really began to do a lot of stuff. And I think eventually, we are in a situation that this trade war will continue. And in fact, when I listen to the president of the United States, Trump, he seems to even go to the point of saying that, we can even cut our relationship with China. And that even though Trump is saying that, like as if it's something easy to do, it has major ramifications. But he seems to be adamant that, look, we don't have to be losing so much money to China. Let's cut the entire relationship, And he seems like someone who can really do that and just stop stop importing from China and start doing stuff in the United States, And that has been his talk, that they want to take back medical supplies and stuff from China and all of that, because it's strange that China even threatened the United States on the issue of medical supplies.
Yeah, they did. In fact, that is what is an issue with President Trump, because he wants to sign an executive order to instruct the companies in the United States to start producing medical supplies, so that the United States, medical supplies are very, very strategic.
Yeah, they're
if you need someone to supply you with medical supplies, that person has a very strong leverage over you.
Yeah.
So you want to depend as a country. You want to be self-sufficient in that regard. So he wanted to sign that executive order, but from what I'm reading, the Secretary of Treasury said China may retaliate and say, okay, we are not exporting any medical supplies to the United States. But I think eventually Trump will do it. I think he will sign that executive order eventually. I'm not sure. I don't think China will go through it, because China wants to be known as a reliable exporter. I don't think they will go through with it, but we'll see. This is a very tough issue for Trump, especially because he's not getting support from Europe. I keep mentioning Europe because if Europe would agree to go into an international coalition, then there can be results. But US alone, it would be very difficult, to be honest.
Yeah. It will be difficult, and I know, Trump has been saying this. I always refer to him because he's very outspoken. Look, he even says it bluntly that the EU was set up, to be a force that is against the USA. In a sense that to counter it or to compete with it, in a sense. and the EU, even when the US was speaking about I don't know, this person from Germany, or was it either the EU commissioner, when it was said that the USA saying that this thing comes from a lab in China, they were saying, no, this is outrageous, this is not true. They really disputed the claims that were made by the United States. So it's clear that we have an issue here of leaders not getting along.
Again, for me, I think the EU lacks a backbone. I do not understand. For example, one of the issues that Trump complains about is that China steals intellectual property. So if you set up a factory in China, China is going to steal your intellectual property and use it to make their own products. They don't do it only against the United States, they do it against Europe. For example, let's look at Germany. China, they asked a German company, Siemens, to install bullet trains in China, and Siemens did that. But while they were doing that, they took all those ideas, they started their own companies. They have a lot of cheap labor. They can do anything that you can be done in the West, maybe for half the price. Now the Chinese companies started to build in Germany, to build bullet trains in Germany, and those companies won against Siemens, a German company. So as I'm saying now, China is building bullet trains in Germany. The German company doesn't have a contract. In UK, in the United Kingdom, China is building 5G technology through Huawei. There are reports that China is spying on the United Kingdom officials through Huawei. But again, they are doing it's nothing. Trump is even threatening that maybe we may not share secret information with the United Kingdom because we do not know if it will pass through China. Classified information. So I do not understand this lack of a backbone from Europe. I really do not understand, because these are strong countries. When they band together, I think economical, I think they are as powerful as the United States when they are together, but they seem to really not have an interest in challenging China.
No, it's clear. I mean, if you look at World War One, World War Two, China also took a bit of part in World War Two. But if you look there, it was clear that the United States was a game changer in both wars. All right, they were game changers in both wars, and it is becoming very clear to me that there is a European power that is setting itself up to be a world dominating power. And really the EU is run by Germany. Let's be frank here.
Germany is
Germany is running the EU in essence. That's why we have Brexit now, where the UK is pulling out, and I think because of economic reasons and all of that. But in essence, they are setting themselves up as a nation to be independent. If anything goes, that it can be easy if there's a war that is coming on the scene, that they can fight. Because now when you are in a union together and there's a war, you don't know which side to choose. Yeah. But now what I want to talk about is, I've mentioned these other things about the trade deal and Sulumani and all of that. I feel that this was also a response in essence to Sulumani, to say to the United States that you won't do whatever you want to do, and in essence, Trump has been saying that no American lives will be killed and all of that, but of course now with the virus, there are American lives that died, and many of them, they are the leading country in this issue. And when you look at it, it is clear that there is a lot of anger from the opposition. of what happened. And I think, of course, I believe that the leader, the Ayatollah, the leader from Iran, when that happened, they called Beijing. They made a call to Xi Jinping, and say, look, this is what happened. You know the news. What are we gonna do? I believe in private conversations, they were thinking a strategy to counter the USA, because there's no country that is willing to stand for freedom and liberty as the United States. In essence, to say that the reason why the USA is in war, I think I need to really mention this to Christians, so that you understand that the news that you see on your DSTV or your satellites, whatever, it's mainly because major of them is because of biblical related issues. We need to mention that, because the reason why the USA is strict on Iran to refuse them a nuclear weapon is simply because Iran is a threat to Israel.
So the government officials, including the Ayatollah, the members of the parliament in Iran, but the parliament doesn't really hold power. The Ayatollah is the supreme leader.
Exactly.
But the officials have been clear that Israel is the devil, small devil, and USA is the big devil. So they constantly chant that these countries must be destroyed. In fact, they don't believe that Israel should exist. They think that is the land for Palestinian people. Israel should not exist. So if it was up to them, I do believe that they would nuke Israel the moment they got nuclear weapons. Another thing that's important with Muslims that we must understand is that they are not afraid of dying. So Russia and the United States were in Cold War for many years. It's because they were afraid. No one wanted to hit the other side because the other will retaliate and then both countries will be destroyed. It was called mutually assured destruction. No one will take a hit, will fire first. But a country like Iran, for them, they believe that it is a struggle. It is a righteous struggle for them to kill.
Exactly.
Remember, for them to spread the message is not to convince the other person that, hey, I'm spreading good news to you. No, it is to force that Allah is God. Muhammad is the prophet. It has to be forced.
Yes.
So I would not be surprised if Iran would get it. They would destroy Israel, even if they know that Israel will retaliate. They do not care. For them, they've done what is right before Allah. They will be rewarded with 72 virgins. That is their belief. So they have to, yes, I support President Trump in this regard. They have to be prevented. And I do not believe that all that they are doing it for peaceful purposes, for the economy. Why would you allow the economy to be destroyed by sanctions? Because you think that the nuclear power will help your economy. Does it make sense? No. They want a nuclear bomb.
Look, that's so true. And it's quite striking to when we look at it, because you are right when you say that Iran is not afraid to go to war. I mean, look what they did when they bombed a drone, a US drone that was flying in the airspace. They were not afraid to take the hit, and they knew that this is a US air drone. They're not afraid to take the hit, and they are the one that instigated the fights that took place in Iraq, where they began to target certain US camps and all of that, and certain US citizens, you see, in Iraq. So it was clear, even the attack on the embassy and everything, or the US embassy that was in Iraq, and that's when Trump responded by killing the general of Iran, Soleimani, particularly because he was the strategic person. But it was clear that they were ready to go into war. But secondly, even Iran was close to going to a war in January with the USA. It was very close. And if they only had support with other nations, let's say if Russia supported them, or maybe China said, look, declare war against the USA, we will back you up, right? If they did that, then we would have now not been talking about the coronavirus. We've been talking about a war that is going on. And all these wars are predicted in the Bible, and they are talking to all of us.
Yeah.
Yes. I would like to just confirm to the listener, that yes, indeed, it is in Revelation 16 verse 12 where it talks about the kings of the east. I just checked my Bible, it's in Revelation 16, which is really the east. It's an issue of geography. East of Israel, we're talking about China and Russia, the nations that are in the east. These are the powers of the east, the kings of the east. It's not the king, it's the kings of the east. But I would like to just to get a listener now to just come back to the Bible, because eventually we need to talk about it. Because one other important issue here is the issue that say why Christians are asking the question, Minister, that why did God allow this? Yeah, what is happening?
But that is an important question. In fact, when you are reading the Revelations, then you also end up asking your same question: why is God going to allow these things that are already here? I think there is a profound answer in the 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. When it's talking about the man of lawlessness that will come to deceive people. There is a verse there that is quite difficult to grasp. It says that God will send them a strong delusion, people, because they have refused to accept the truth. So people have rejected Jesus. And it says that God will then send them a strong delusion. Now, I don't know if it means God will allow or God will deliberately send. But the issue is that there is a time that Antichrist has to take over. God has set parameters that his reign, which is called the Great Tribulation, will be 7 years. So God has set those parameters, everything that God has to first allow it himself. So the answer in Thessalonians, it says that people do want this thing. The thing is, people are refusing Christ. People are saying, no, we want sin. So eventually God has to say, okay, take what you want. You want the devil. Why don't you experiment with him for 7 years? Yeah. So Antichrist, it has been prophesied in the Bible that Antichrist will come and rule, and the Bible also says that his deception is already at work. So what that means is that he is already preparing to take over. I'm not convinced that one day we will wake up and it will be the Great Tribulation. I think that there will be steps
that will take place,
that lead us, like wars, for example. It says that there will be wars, there will be rumors of war. So why has God allowed those things, those wars to take place? People die in war, there's famine in war, but those things have been prophesied that they will lead up to it. So I think one of the ways of the way I see it is that this is a lead up. We are still gonna talk about how much control that the government is taking in this thing. We're still gonna get there, I believe. But my take is that this is a lead up.
No, that is it's a lead up. You know, I was, speaking that, one of the things that coronavirus taught me was this: the government has power. It has taught me that the government that I usually see every day has got the power to shut me down. And what that means, they only need to create a scenario for them to institute that power. Because the government is not running out of ideas. They have ideas how they can implement the system of the Antichrist, because the system of the Antichrist is a system of government. Let us be frank here. It is a system of the government. The Antichrist will not achieve his mission by sitting in a cabinet of his own. He will achieve his mission by sitting in the cabinets of the world, in the strategic places of the world. The Bible calls in the book of Ephesians that the enemy is the prince of the power of the air, which simply tells us that he is the ruler of the world. Which means if you are a ruler in the world, you must know that there is a ruler that is above you. He's the ruler of the world. So where I want to come to really, and I like the passage that you looked at, because it's a passage myself I wanted to highlight. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. But I wanted to read to the listener verse 7. It says, I'll start from verse 6 to 7. 6 says, you know what is restraining him, that he may be revealed in his own time. My God. For the mystery of lawlessness is already at work. The Bible is amazing. The Bible calls that it's a mystery. It's a secretive mystery. It's a mystery, something that is hidden. The mystery of lawlessness is already at work. Now, Paul is writing 2,000 years back, I don't know, somewhere there. He's already indicating to us that the works of the Antichrist are already at work. And it says that only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. And I think I just want to leave it there. And maybe continue to verse 8 and says, and then the lawless one will be revealed. I think, Minister, that we are talking here about the revelation of the lawless one. And here the word lawless here, I just want the viewer to understand here. When the Bible says lawless, it is not talking about the laws of the world. It is talking about the laws of the Bible. Yes. Which means when you talk about the law of God that was issued to the servant Moses, and it has went down, there are laws of God that are all over in the Old Testament and even in the New. He is saying this man of lawlessness will be revealed, whom the Lord will consume with the breath of his mouth and destroy with the brightness of his coming. Now, there's something important here I want to indicate to the listener, because I think many Christians, people are shocked by what happened. I think we are still all trying to grasp what happened. I think maybe after next year, people will have a sense of why really this happened and why the Lord really allowed this, right? But I think one clear indication the Lord is saying in this scripture is that there is a restrainer.
Yes.
And until the restrainer is taken out of the way, the man of lawlessness will still be hiding, in a sense that he will still be in mystery, which means he will still be operating in secret. But until the restrainer is removed, then he will be revealed. And I think now it's clear that the restrainer is on a situation whereby it's going to be removed. The restrainer, let me make this clear to the list. The restrainer is none other than the Holy Spirit, whom the Lord left on the earth. When the Holy Spirit is removed, the Antichrist will start operating.
Yes.
And what I am getting here is that God is in a part whereby the bargaining powers of the Antichrist are so great that the Holy Spirit is beginning to give him leeway.
Yes.
And this virus has taught me that.
And you mentioned that it's important, this distinction you mentioned about lawlessness, that we are not talking about laws of government, but we are talking about laws of the Bible, because that is what he is coming. That is how he comes, not to point us to Christ, which is the law of the Bible, that Jesus Christ is the Lord and Savior. No. This same chapter you are reading, it says that he will sit in the temple in Jerusalem,
My God,
and declare himself to be God,
my God,
which is
Jesus.
itself blasphemy. In fact, Daniel talks about this blasphemy all the time.
Yes.
The book of Revelation talks about blasphemy, that he points to himself that I am God, and he is sitting in Jerusalem.
My God.
So I highlighted that it's not the laws of government, because he will actually come
To enforce
through
them.
the laws of government. So
Yes. He will actually come and enforce them and even create more stricter laws of government.
he will come through those laws. That is exactly the mechanism that he will use, the laws of government. In fact, I want to get into that. How you are mentioning now how government has become so powerful. For me, I didn't know that. It just didn't cross my mind that the government can assume so much power in a very short period of time. I mean, the government has told us we must stay in our houses. We are not allowed to do this. Businesses have been shut down. Churches have been shut down. Easter, there was no Easter. Ever since I was alive, I do not remember a time where there was no Easter. So we have just learned how powerful the government is. Now, one country that values liberty and freedom more than any other country is the United States. Some people are shocked why there are so many protests in the United States, because a lot of other people are obeying. No, United States, if you know how it was founded on the basis of freedom and liberty. So it's difficult for some people when government just say stay at home. So one country where there were protests is the United States, but still, for the most part, the lockdown orders were successful, although they are starting to open up. But there's something I want to highlight, because the Antichrist will come through government. Anytime there is a prophecy, it talks about the horns. There were 10 horns, which often represent kings. Now we no longer have kings. It may represent a certain region that will be represented in this new world that we will have. But what we know is that we will have now a system where the world is united. We have one world. There's always this thing of one world government. Yes, that's exactly how the Antichrist will operate. One world government, one central government. That is very important. One central government. Now, I want to talk about this contact tracing, because that is exactly what people believe, that in order for Antichrist to function, he has to track people down. Remember, the Bible is clear that everyone who refuses to accept the mark of the beast will be killed. will not be allowed to buy and sell. So will be excluded from the system. So that's why everything has to be electronic. We have all these banks out there, so that if you refuse to accept this thing, you have to be completely excluded. You cannot buy, you cannot sell, you cannot have medicine. If you have any disease, if you have cancer, you cannot have access to chemotherapy. You will just die. No, maybe your water, I believe your water will be cut off by the municipality. You need the mark of the beast. So what has happened now, a very important development that we should note, that governments have developed tracking applications. These tracking applications, what they do, most of them use a Bluetooth. They communicate with each other. The governments are asking people to install this application on their cell phones. They say this will help us to easily emerge from the lockdown. Many people, more than half of the population in countries like Australia, have already uploaded this application. What these applications do, they upload your personal information to the government centralized server. The government has not, the UK government is even refusing to pledge that it will not be used for other purposes. But one country that has gone very far is South Korea. Everyone is saying South Korea is doing very well. South Korea is using 3 methods. They track your cell phone location. They track your credit card. So if you draw money, that is being tracked. And thirdly, they use CCTV cameras to track your movements. You go to any mall, you are walking around the streets. The South Korean government is tracking you. That information is then uploaded to a website that is public, not like some private thing where they are hiding it. It is uploaded to a public domain in South Korea, so everyone can log in and see, oh, someone is positive and they were in this mall. So maybe I came into access with them. In fact, the government agencies in South Korea, if someone traveled around, what they would do is to then take those people, test them, quarantine them. So that's why South Korea is being congratulated that it was able to emerge from this quicker. It's because South Korea went very far with how they invaded privacy. That is your phone. They would track your phone. They would track your movements by camera. They would track your credit card usage. Anytime you swipe, you do anything, they are tracking you. Anyone close to you, they will try to quarantine those people. Now, those are very, very extreme measures that you can exactly see how the Antichrist can use that.
Yes.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, no, it's amazing that you are mentioning South Korea, because all of these are Asian countries. They are all in the East. You know? Even
that's
though
where the majority of the population is.
Yeah, and that's where the majority of the population of the world is, by the way. You are right. India is also there. I'm just saying, you know, and I'm happy that you are bringing out this thing about tracking, because eventually the government, after this, even South Africa will start saying that we need to bring laws now, so that if there's a next virus that is in place, we will be able to track people quicker and shut down the fires quicker. And we need
South Africa would also be tracking if they had infrastructure, to be honest. So you are right. Next time maybe they will try to build infrastructure now.
In fact, there will be legislation on this issue. I think within this year or next year there will be legislations about how we can track people. We need a way. We can use their phones, whatever means, so that we know South Africans. So that we know South Africans where they are, what they are doing. It's also going to be maybe good for crime purposes. You see what I mean? But in essence, what they are saying is this: that we need a tracking system. But eventually, where they are going to, you know, before we close this chapter, they are going to the mark of the beast. They are going to a centralized system to identify people. Because the mark of the beast, which is in the book of Revelation chapter 13, is only possible or I cannot only possible, rather, I rather say it is possible through the use of technology, by means of identification. They'll track you, they'll know where you are, and all of these things. This is what the Antichrist needs in order for Antichrist to implement systems to say that, look, you're not allowed to buy because we can identify it's you who's buying. You don't believe in our system, you don't believe in the government, you are anti-government. So we will not allow you to buy or sell. You see what I mean? So it's going to be easy for the police to be in a location and say that, okay, Mr. Murake, we see Mr. Murake is getting out of his house. Where is he going? He's going to a market. What is he doing there? They can easily go and take you and put you into prison.
Yes.
So I think what we have to all to look, this is not a prophecy, but it's a prediction. We have to expect that major nations, including South Africa, will start to bring legislations to enforce these tracking application liabilities. They have now the good recipe and the good excuse to use it and say that we don't want, if there's another virus that comes out, we need our people to protect it. Right? So they are saying they are protecting you.
So I was saying we should insist, if there's gonna be any tracking,
Yes.
we can't stop it. We should insist that the information is only used only for coronavirus mitigation only. Also, we should pray that we are in the plan of God. That is it. We should just pray that whatever is happening, that we find in the plan of God.
Yes. Yeah, I fully agree, especially in these last days. There's so much that is happening, and I think Christians should wake up. I think it's a wake-up call. I don't think the governments they've passed the issue of coronavirus now. They've gone beyond COVID-19. They're busy now. The lawmakers are busy now writing laws into place to help them, so that if there's another outbreak somewhere else in the world, they'll be able to defend themselves quickly. As you have rightfully said, that South Korea will be used as a model. They said this worked in South Korea, so we should help our citizens, and they will use the constitution to justify that, that they have a responsibility to the government to protect lives. And really, it's difficult to argue and dispute when people come with such valid cases, But this is what we call create chaos to bring order, So that's what they are doing. They are bringing chaos themselves. This is from the communist government from China, and the Chinese government have been wanting these things. They've been doing these things, and they want the world to be in line with them. And they've really been a mouthpiece of the devil. Yeah, so we feel that this is going to result into major legislations across the world. And these things will cause people to actually, it will bring problems actually. I think it's going to bring problems, major problems. Yes. Yeah, I think we have to conclude now. But we thank the listeners and those who listen throughout. And may God bless you. Stay in tune and keep yourself updated. Shalom.